So my viewers, welcome to the second episode of the series with Ma'am, and it is the first episode was a really interesting one. So if you're watching this for the first time, check the other one out and then come to this, because in the first episode we learned about Ma'am and her travels, and it was a very interesting episode. So ma'am, let's begin this with a very interesting question which I wanted to ask. Tell us about your previous profession, anthropology, and what is it exactly?
Okay. I find funny that you stated as my previous profession, and I'll tell you why. It is very common that I and we identify ourselves with what we do and what we have learned. That's why I was reluctant to say, like, to use these categories when you ask me, tell me about you, like, I yeah, before, maybe many years ago, I will say, like, I studied anthropology, I'm also a yoga teacher, I'm doing this and that, and it is challenging when I ask myself, like, okay, what am I beyond that, beyond what I do? So this was, can you hear me okay? Because I can see you chopping, like, in the video.
I can hear you fine.
Okay, great. Okay.
I can hear you fine. Yeah.
Okay, so in one travel in South Africa, when I was traveling in this moment, asking what was my life purpose, what was I meant to be doing here in the world. I had this meeting with a Sangoma, who is a traditional medicine person in South Africa, and he told me, you know what, you are not an anthropologist, and you are not a yoga teacher either. And that shocked me so much, in a positive way. And then I was wondering, like, who am I then, if I'm not an anthropologist and a yoga teacher? And that's why I found hilarious when you asked me, like, your previous profession as an anthropologist. Because, I don't identify myself anymore only as an anthropologist, although these studies inform one of the lenses I have to experience and understand the world. Okay, so, and I worked as an anthropologist indeed for 13 years, but then I dropped it, and I can tell you a bit more later if you want. So, okay, but first of all, what is anthropology? So anthropology is the study of human cultures. So what is a culture? Culture, okay, there is not an agreement about the definition of this, but let's say something for the sake of it. So culture is the way we humans understand, make sense, and relate with the world. So it incorporates religion, maybe, or spirituality. It incorporates language, the way we decide about dressing, what we eat, when we eat it, how we eat it. Like, everything you can think about us as humans is permeated by culture. I mean, we have some biological things that are like the need for eating, for instance, or certain emotions and feelings that are common to human experience. And these are totally intermixed with culture, with what we have been taught by our people, our family, our society, that is the way we need to be in the world. So cultures are super different. For instance, like your culture, Aditya, in India is super different to my culture here in Colombia. And I am sure, as I have learned, that India is so diverse that you have so many different cultures within your country, as well as we do have here in Colombia. Like, I know you have different languages spoken there, different ways of cooking, different maybe religions there, and it is the same here within the country and between countries as well. So anthropology is the study of this. It started as a colonial discipline, that is to say that it was an interest from certain people in like in the global north to study other people who were maybe less developed or less modern than they were, and that's how the discipline starts. But now, like after many years of the discipline in the world, this has been super problematized and challenged. And now we understand we all as humans have culture, we all are different, we all are contemporary, and there is no way of being that is behind or less developed than other. There are simply different ways of living in the world. So that's anthropology. Is it more or less clear?
Yes,
Okay.
it's more clear when you talk about it like that. So, what do you think we should learn from anthropology? From our ancestors, and because when I searched anthropology on Google, it said that it is the study of what makes us human. So please tell us what we should learn from anthropology and how can we apply those rules to our own life.
What can we learn from anthropology? Okay. So I will tell you what I have learned practicing anthropology in the last 13 years. I have learned that is a great richness to exchange with people who think and live different than I do. Because that teaches me that there is not one single correct way of being in the world and with myself, and that I can expand my own boundaries to be so many different possibilities of my own self. So, for instance, if my culture tells me that men should wear short hair and women should wear long hair, for instance, and then I start interacting with people who experience life differently, I change from one only possibility of being in the body I am, like I am in a female body, therefore I should wear long hair, versus I am in a female body and I can tend to my body in the best way I feel in this particular moment of my life. And that applies to all the facets of life. So, for instance, in Colombia, we have for breakfast normally arepa, which is a cornbread that is flattened, like I don't know if a parata maybe, like this, and with eggs, let's say, and maybe warm chocolate. And then when I met a friend from Turkey, I learned that they eat salad for breakfast. And that is so unthinkable here, you know? And sometimes I have breakfast, I have salad for breakfast, sometimes I have other things for breakfast, and that expands my ways of experiencing the world. It will be like super restricted if I would only eat, you know, eggs and arepa for the rest of my life, as opposed to if I incorporate different ways of being in my own everyday life. So this applies to everything. Okay, so that's one thing that is so precious for about interacting with other people from different backgrounds and cultures, even within the country and also outside the country. Okay, another thing I have learned about it is that the world is amazing, and there is so much kindness and awesomeness in human beings than we tend to think. I feel the news have done a great job on creating fear and on inviting us not to be hopeful in humanity. Like everything we see in the news speaks about how awful our species are, you know, all the damages we are making in the world. And that's real as well. And that's true as well. But there is a great and important thing that they don't show, and is how awesome the human being can be. And that to me is so deeply important, because when we keep hope in humanity, then it is worth to fight for a better world, you know, as opposed to think everything is lost because we are so fucked up, to say it bluntly, that what difference does it make if I am not a great person, if I don't act in my wisest person, you know? If everything is already so wrong, then what difference do I make? When I started traveling and working with different people in different places, I realized even it doesn't matter if there are challenges and people have been, you know, oppressed and discriminated because the way the world is, there is so much kindness and awesomeness in the world, and there is hope. And that's what I hold so precious in my heart, and that's what moves me for contributing to, and to imagine that it is possible that another worlds can be, you know. So that's another teaching I have received from working in anthropology. And another teaching, and this will be the last one, is that it is not enough to study something meaningful for making a difference in the world. So I will elaborate on this. I studied anthropology because I really wanted to change the world. I mean, that was my intention. And it got so difficult in these 13 years of work. Like, I was really careful of choosing where I work. Like, I will refuse job offers even if they pay me a lot, if I felt they were not ethical, for instance, if they will support systems of oppression. So I wouldn't take them. So let's say from the beginning, I only took job offerings that I thought they will make a difference in the world. But it was not enough. You know, like, I found that there were so many political interests and so many ego in between, and also the way the world is structured makes difficult to make a difference within the institutions that exist. So it didn't matter if I work with all my heart and with all my conviction for creating an impact. I never got to see an impact in the works I did, and that's not because anthropology is not important. That's not because it is impossible to make a change in the world. To me, what it means is that it is so necessary that each of us tap into our inner creativity and into our inner ways of doing things, because the way the world works right now is not working. I mean, it is doomed to fail if you don't do anything about it. And it is not because we as a species are a plague and needs to be, removed from the world so that the world can keep on living and prospering without us. No, that's not the case. The thing is that the way energy and intention is is invested, doesn't allow us to truly contribute as we should be contributing. So let's give you an example. Like, for instance, I live in this apartment, And this apartment doesn't get the sun all year round. And it is not because the sun is not available, it is because of the way it was built. So for me, it is impossible to live with plants inside because there is there is half of the year they won't get sun and they will die. So this is not because we are, as human species, are doomed to fail. This is because the priorities of architecture and engineer maybe are not totally focused on a good living, but in other standards, like maybe what is the cheapest way to do it, or what is the best way to accumulate people like massively in a place. So there are different standards that are important right now. And I feel that is what have us causing this impact we are causing in the world and to our own selves. So if we start thinking out of the box, we will come with creative ideas about how to improve the lives we are living with the technology and with all the capacity and amazing skills we have as human beings to make this world an amazing place for us as humans and to other people who are not human as well, you know, in honor to the earth. So it is the same for anthropology. Like, anthropology has a great potential for changing the world as any other profession and work has. The only thing we need to do is to start thinking creatively on what's the purpose of our contribution? What is the world we are creating in our jobs and through each of our actions? And that's what I do. I mean, that's why I decided to stop working for other people and create my own project, so I can contribute to make a different world based on my own unique skills. So, so those are like few teachings I have from anthropology.
Okay, so that was very interesting. Can you please tell us about the most interesting project you have done in anthropology and why?
Yeah. Okay. So initially, I will say none, and that's why I love the profession. Like to work, I used to work. But you know what? Yeah, there is one project that was really interesting professionally, and there are two projects that were really powerful and impactful for me in a personal level. So I will share the three of them with you. So as a project, okay, so in 2016, I stopped working as an employee because, as I shared, I didn't feel I was making any impact in the world. And then I just decided to volunteer in different projects that I felt were more aligned with my values. So I volunteer in an institution that I like a lot here in Colombia that protects natural reserves. And I volunteered in a project that is in Putumayo, that's in the Amazon region in southern Colombia. So it's in the jungle or in the rainforest. And this reserve was established because the indigenous people who live there, mainly there are two main cultures and people who live there, who are the Cofan and the Inga people. They asked the government to establish a reserve to protect their territories. And these territories are sacred to them, not only because of the biodiversity, but also because there is a plant who lives there, who is endemic to that area, that is really important to their culture. And that's a plant for healing, for community bonding, for it's a plant that keeps them their community cohesed. So the the government established this reserve, and it is taken care of, basically. So I volunteer with the team who takes care of this reserve. And it was amazing. It was an amazing project, not only because of the history of the project and the intention of the project, but also because the values of the teamwork there are really honest. Like, people were valued by and honored by their own contributions. They were all respected equally, and it was a really friendly and positive environment for working. And I felt everyone who was there was really committed to the purpose of the work, which was protecting this territory. And there was a multicultural team with indigenous people and also people coming from the city as me. So that was a great experience. So that's a project I have in my heart. And
Okay.
the two projects that touch me more in an existential or personal way is, one, I have worked in mining areas since I started my career. And I have worked and I have returned to this topic my professional experience. So I had the opportunity to go to the mountains in Colombia, where the emerald is taken out of the mountains. And later I had the opportunity to go to some other areas in the mountains as well, where the gold is taken out of the mountains. And I have been also in coal areas of like massive extraction. So why was this important for me in a personal level? It showed me how complex the world is, and how many different rationales and decisions are within these practices of extraction. So yeah, for instance, let's say emeralds, that I have returned to that areas a couple of times. If you think about it, emeralds are not necessary for humanity at all.
Okay.
And yet they are extracted, and they give status to people who wear them or who possess them. And this status is built on hardships of other humans and a great impact on mountains and water sources, leave alone armed conflict and the rest of inequalities and complex things that happen in the site of the mining. So it led me to see another facet of how society is so fragmented. Like, we value, or we have like imagine necessities that are not real, that lead us to certain practices that are into the detriment of other human lives and the well-being of Earth, you know. So that to me was life-changing, I will say. Also to see, for instance, how the main rivers of Colombia are being polluted because of, for instance, gold extraction, and how we are so disconnected with what's going on in a broader scale in the world, that we don't realize that we are also making this damage to our own selves. Like, we are polluting the main sources of water in the country. What are we gonna do when we don't have clean water? You know? So, but still, we keep on supporting, or we pretend we don't see, or it is not our business that these things are happening. In the country, many people have protested against these projects, and there have been a lot of controversy around these mining projects in the last decades. But it was not always like that, and it is happening globally anyway. So yeah, this is kind of like an initial invitation to reflect on this aspect, let's say. And another topic, and the other project that was super touching for me was working in the rural areas, southern rural areas of Bogota, capital district, especially in the Sumapaz Paramo. So as I told you before, the Paramo is an ecosystem that is really dear to my heart and that is unique to these areas. So that was in the previous talk. So the Sumapaz Paramo is the biggest Paramo in the world, and it is part of it is in the Bogota capital district. So for me, before, Bogota was only a city, and I didn't really realize that there were rural areas and populations inhabiting the capital district as well. So to me, it was mind-blowing to expand again my views of the territory I live in, and also to realize how we are surrounded by plants and what we call nature, not only within the city, but also around the city. Like, it invited me to see how all this urban complex where we live are also part of a wider reality that is the world. And just like, without going beyond or too far, like, our city is surrounded by agricultural areas and also amazing ecosystems that are not urbanized, and how that is so vital for us, because that's where the city gets the water from. But also, yeah, it reminds me how we haven't colonized all the earth with the cities, and how important it is that it remains like that. You know, that there are also areas of green and neighborhoods that are not mainly populated by humans, but also by other people. Mm-hmm. Aditya,
Yes, ma'am.
I cannot hear you, and your video is chopping.
Very interesting topic. Okay.